us. This is certainly a momentous time for us in reflection on the last 2 years in business. And this whole process of even just getting to the webinar has been a really great exercise in reflecting on the growth of the business in the last 2 years. As you can see, this is the two-man band. We've done it from the start with a tremendous amount of passion, but attention to creating what we believe would be the best plant-based performance supplements in the hybrid performance space. For those of you that are not familiar, this is a really strong emerging platform for an interdisciplinary mix of functional fitness, weightlifting, running, and certainly competition now that we have a really strong emphasis in this high rock scene that James can speak to as an elite athlete who participates in that and will be at the World Championships here in a few weeks. But with that, we're just really grateful for the chance to reflect on how we've grown in the last couple of years and had the chance to make serious inroads with the business in ways that we never dreamed of. And now that we're here, being able to share that with you all, we're just really, really excited. So I'll pass it to James to speak on that.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much for joining. It's again, like Zavi said, we're stoked to be here and we're stoked to be able to, present something that we've been, building on for the last few years. And it's been a great and exciting journey. I don't think I said this to Zavi when we first actually touched base a couple of years ago. I never thought I would be excited to work on a business as much as I did training for the World Games. And I finally found something that matches it and probably even surpasses it to the most part. A little bit of background about me. I grew up playing sport, have always been very eager in health and fitness. I became a PT when I was 19. I played semi-professional rugby league and then found myself in the CrossFit scene. That's probably where I'm, I guess, most well known for, participating in CrossFit, going all around the world and competing in competitions. But intertwined into that, I never wanted to affect my longevity for a gold medal. So I'd always been very focused on clean, healthy, pure nutrition, and predominantly plant-based until I turned vegan in 2019. That's when the questions really started popping up. How do you get enough protein as a vegan athlete, and how do you prepare for the CrossFit Games, which is arguably one of the hardest tests in the world as a vegan athlete, because it requires a big array of skills, but not just endurance, but also strength. And that's typically what most people see as a negative being a plant-based athlete or a vegan athlete, is that you're going to lose a lot of strength. And I guess I was wanting to always put my right foot forward, showing that it could be done. And then my passion for nutrition at the same time kind of led me down the supplement pathway and developing something that was not only going to be good for longevity, but good for recovery and health, gut health in particular, which is what we focus on a lot. My exposure in the CrossFit scene gave me exposure to a vast array of companies doing extremely well across all facets of performance, which kind of led me down the path of gut health and human performance, which is where we started Phyba. So it's been a fantastic journey, and whilst I now still compete in the high rock space more predominantly, it's really opening up great avenues for us, especially with where we're taking the supplement brand at the moment, which is down the path of fueling athletes that love to train. It's not just about the elite athletes for us; it's about people who really truly care about pure, clean, plant-based supplementation that's good for longevity, good for sport, good for people who like to work out. And also, it's just great for lifestyle. People that lead busy lifestyles like Zavi and myself, essentially, we're building this not only for the community, but, we are the community. We're building it for us. And we're an athlete founder-led brand that, we like to walk the walk. We don't like just to put out a supplement and tell you it's good for you. We use it on a daily basis ourselves. And that's kind of where we stand.
Yeah, beautiful. And to touch on that, I think I come from a background of functional medicine, holistic health and wellness coaching, and finance. So when I met James, I saw the perfect encapsulation of a brand that had not only financial stability behind it, but the capacity to capture a large market share in a really popular and developing space. And because so much of what we struggle with on a daily basis comes down to our ability to perform, whether that be in business or sport, I saw this as a great opportunity to partner with James to further something that encapsulated the ethos and the ecosystem of holistic health and well-being that was unparalleled in its focus on the gut microbiome, all these fundamental health factors that were typically overlooked in the market that I had worked in for so long. So it was quite a blessing. We actually met off of an Instagram post 2 years ago, and I was living in the States at the time. And to give you guys a sense of how much I believe in what we're putting forth here, I moved all the way from the States down here to Australia to make it happen. So here we are, and we're ready to crack in with you guys.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So we're going to kick off the presentation now, team. We're going to share a screen with you, and we're just going to go through a bit of a PowerPoint presentation, if you will, just outlining and touching base on some common questions that we have about the business and giving you guys a really good explanation on where we've come from, where we sit now, and what we're looking to do moving forward, and why we believe in this brand so much.
Beautiful. Kick it off, my brother.
Great. So the vision for us, our vision is to redefine sports nutrition by leading the world in plant-based, gut-friendly sports performance supplements, helping athletes at all levels push boundaries, optimize recovery, and unlock their full potential. So for our vision, and we want to emphasize this, we are really trying to bridge the gap between modern science, which is essentially looking after the gut microbiome with the latest probiotic science, and fusing that with Ayurvedic, TCM, natural herbals and tinctures and real food-based products, and basically melding the two together to create a brand that not only stands for sports performance, human performance, but also integrity, longevity, and gut health. That's where we see ourselves. We want to be the leaders in natural nutrition from a plant-based standpoint. And there are a few companies out there that do well in this space, but we feel like we hold a unique proposition in the fact that we walk the walk on a daily basis as well. Not only being a beacon for health and performance, but also education at the same time. So that's kind of where we sit ourselves, and we really believe in that. And, you know, so far we've seen tremendous backing in that respect as well, just with the amount of, I guess, brand recognition and attraction to the brand so far, especially in the last 6 months.
Yeah, beautiful. Look, there are many different pillars of what we focus on in the sports performance space, but when it comes to our mission, it really kind of comes down to a few fundamental principles. We would call it 5. The first is enhancing performance. We believe that performance comes from a whole body ecosystem that is supportive of the training load and recovery that comes with athletic performance. So what we have done, not only in our education, our podcast, our blogs, and our social media, but in the formulation of the products, is to create something that truly, truly gets to the core of what these energy systems and the body is designed to do, and to support that naturally with a holistic approach to sports performance that not only allows somebody to feel better on a daily basis in their professional duties, as so many of our clients end up performing professional duties training before or after work, but also for elite athletes who are very focused on metrics, performance tracking, to accelerate something that they truly find passion and purpose in.
Exactly. And, you know, and I think this is something that I'm unsure whether brands take into consideration, but for us, it's being able to put our brand in the hands of people that truly care about gut health and let them spread the word as well. So for us, it's not only just about building, you know, beautiful quality supplements, but it also has to be commercially viable as well. And to do that, we also need to build a movement at the same time. And so much of what we see in today's business environment is, you know, it has to have some social presence. So we feel really compelled to tell the stories of the athletes that we work with and of the community that we work with and that we help to fuel on a daily basis. So building a movement is just as much a key pillar as it is building beautiful quality supplements that, you know, help people long-term rather than acutely. It's always about building a movement, and we always want to make sure that we always are leading with integrity. That's another big mission of ours, is making sure that, you know, we walk the walk at the same time, and we're keeping ourselves accountable in that respect as well. And I think that's probably one of the best ways to put your first foot forward. Being a founder-driven brand, which I think is becoming more of a case point, especially in 2025. So we're happy to do it, and I think it's a fun thing for us to do, is to be out there competing alongside the people that use our brand at the same time. And, you know, we've seen this in a couple of brands more recently doing, you know, extremely well, the likes of BPN and Nick Bear, and, you know, they're good friends of ours, and, you know, we've seen them kind of lead from the front, and, you know, we can aspire to do similar things.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful point. And many of the supplement companies that are out there nowadays are creating branded remakes of the same products. And we felt that there was a whole untapped aspect of holistic health, certainly coming from our backgrounds, that wasn't yet integrated into sports performance formulation, whether that be Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, looking at tonic herbs and incorporating them with really high impact, beautiful formulations into something that truly sets us apart from the rest of the market. So if you look at one of our flagship products, Super Browns, for example, we have a variety of blends in there that come from all different backgrounds of Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, modern sports performance science, to create a full body, whole body tonic on a daily basis that any athlete can take and feel the effects of in a pretty profound way. And that's based on the heavy metal testing that we've done. We've brought in a lot of cross examination of these products to make sure that they're up to par with the rest of the industry. And we truly believe that is our leading edge of innovation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this, yeah, I guess this is about me here, guys. So, I'll talk a little bit about myself. So, in terms of business, I started a CrossFit gym back in 2013 at the ripe old age of 22. I had a blast doing that. I still own actually a little bit of that business. It sits in Adelaide, where I grew up. Aside from that, I've been to the CrossFit Games 5 times. We actually won the CrossFit Games as a team last year. So, if you would ask me 5 years ago if you ever thought I'd win the CrossFit Games at that point in time, I would have said no. But here we are, and it was a dream come true in terms of an athletic career highlight. And then shifting from that, I guess intertwined in the CrossFit space. I gained a fairly significant following just based on the fact that I was pushing boundaries in terms of athletic performance, and I felt like that was a platform where I could really unleash a good message across the crowd to promote a plant-based lifestyle, promote healthy living, promote active lifestyles, and things that made me feel good, because I've been through times where when things aren't sitting in equilibrium, things are off, and I just wanted to share what it feels like to feel good on a regular basis. I'm also getting ready for my first ever High Rocks World Championships with 7 times fittest woman on earth, Tia Claire Toomey. She's a good friend of mine. And she also loves the products as well, which is an added bonus. But we're getting ready for our first World Championships, and we're going in there with the target of winning the thing, which is going to be great. And we'll be, I guess, upset with anything less, but we'll go out there and have a good time. It's always about having a fun time for me. If it's not exciting and it's not fun, I don't want to do it. So, which is why I'm so fired up about this business. But we've over the course of the last 13 years of professional CrossFit, we've had some pretty great networking opportunities. I've had the opportunity to fly over and visit the likes of, we're actually sitting here at LSKD HQ, having this meeting with you guys that I've been working with these guys for years now, and they're good friends of the brand. But I've had the opportunity to chat with BPN and Nick Bear and see what they're doing over there, and visit Under Armour headquarters and the Performance Center and spend time there working with some NFL players and high performance coaches. That's been a really insightful way to network and find out more about the human body. But for me, it's always been about testing my limits across multiple disciplines. I get when I'm sitting in a sport for too long, I get itchy, and in the off season, I typically have one sport that leads the way, and in the off season, I like to dabble, whether that's strongman. I've completed Ironmans before, and marathons, half marathons, and I basically have been intrigued by all tests rather than just one solid strategic pinpoint test. That kind of fires me up, and I'll forever be testing myself and jumping into things that get me out of my comfort zone. And what I love to do the most is bring a community with me. One of my all-time favorite moments of my sporting career was actually getting 21 members from my gym to come and run the Ironman with me. And that was a trip from Adelaide over to Perth to run the Busselton Ironman. And that still to this day is right up there with winning a CrossFit Games in my books and memory bank. So for me, I love building a community, and there's something I feel is a little bit unique when people suffer together in such a hard event like that. And I think it really brings out the best in people, and it creates long-term memories.
Yeah, beautiful. And I come from a background in finance and entrepreneurship. I grew up in Silicon Valley, so I had that perspective of what was possible when you set your mind and heart to something that's meaningful. Growing up in the Bay Area, there's not only an emphasis on growing brands and innovating ideas, but a tremendous focus on holistic wellness, on benefiting the ecosystems around us, and building what would be a consciously equitable business that impacts everybody from supply chain to customer to executive leadership in a beneficial way. And having grown up with that background, having had the chance to know personally and have family members in the entrepreneurship space, I saw what was possible to effectively push forward an idea that was rooted in solid ethics with a solid approach to benefiting those around you, and how it can be done with a lot of diligence, a lot of hard work, certainly a lot of late nights, as James and I can attest to, but most importantly, with strategy and business mind at heart. So when I was 14, I struggled with morbid obesity at that time, and I knew that there was an intersection between business and health that I wanted to pursue. And at that time, I lost over about, of course, in American units, 100 pounds over the course of a few years. And I knew that there was potential to not only my body, but serving others in that way. So before I met James, I worked for about 10 years in both the executive leadership side of a few startups in the health and wellness space in the US, but also as a personal coach, doing personal training, functional medicine, a lot of orthopedic assessment with clients to help them through that weight loss process and find a holistic solution to what would be an epidemic problem, certainly in the United States and in some portions and parts here in Australia. And with that business mind at heart, James and I linked up, and we brought this beautiful idea to heart in a way that was financially sustainable. And we've kept that business model really lean. So as I run Phyba, I look at all the operations, business, marketing, financial partnerships, certainly with a few that we've signed and orchestrated in the last few months that have been major. And I'm also finishing up my Bachelor of Finance at the University of South Australia, and we'll continue on with a bit of studies at a master's level thereafter.
So at the moment, I guess you guys have come here to see where we currently sit and what we do, and looking at our pipeline and momentum of growth. We currently have a direct consumer base, which is essentially what we sell products online and who we sell them to, which is the customers every day shopping online. Another pipeline that we have is our retail market space. Now that we've done a really good partnership with a local distribution company who's probably the most well-known and has such long-term history in distribution of high quality supplements in Australia, which is Nutrition Systems. They're handling all operations from the retail brick and mortar sector to operations leading into New Zealand as well. So that's something that's been very exciting for us moving forward. So far, we've seen tremendous growth, especially in our wholesale market. We were lucky enough when we stepped into this space. I believe it'd be because we had a fantastic product and we overcame so many barriers with plant protein that the large pipelines and the large retailers, the likes of Nutrition Warehouse and ASN, Supplement Mart, Elite Sups, they all saw the product that we brought to market in the way that we did, and it was a little bit unique in a way, and they took us on very quickly, which has been good and helped with momentum and growth for us so far. But moving forward, we're still very much just scratching the surface of what we can in the retail sector and the distribution sector, and we have high hopes for what's to come. And there are a few things that have been in the works, especially over the last couple of months, that we're looking at sinking our teeth into. We actually won the second place in the Nutrition Systems best all natural protein category in our first year, which has seen a tremendous pickup in our direct to consumer. We've done some significant numbers since then as well, and especially the start of this year has been significant growth as opposed to last year. But what we found that's been really affecting our revenue of late is our introduction of our affiliate and ambassador program. We'd actually attacked this early on in the stages of Phyba as we were just starting out, but we've seen such an impact more recently, and we launched at the start of January an affiliate partnership where people could become a part of the brand. They would get their links and be able to share them online and share their experience with the brand, and not only from a supplement point of view, but a training point of view. And we now have over 115 affiliate and ambassador partnerships that are essentially creating and driving content out through socials to their networks as well, which is essentially helping us not only gain a little bit more traction in that space, but helping us to tell the story of what we're about. So for us, the growth factor at the moment is essentially why we're doing this crowdfund is to keep up with demand. And that's where we see ourselves is expanding into new products, new ideas, and new sectors of growth, like the high rock space and functional hybrid space, which has been a really big key factor for us.
Yeah, that's huge. And another thing I emphasize is James and I have worked with a variety of different agencies over the last few years, certainly in marketing, focusing on ad spend and scaling that operation. And we've found time and time again that the best results that we get from a business perspective, cost of goods sold, ad spend, return on ad spend, is when we do it ourselves. And that's not to say that we're gurus by any means, but I think it does speak to the fact that when you have two individuals leading a company who know the space really well and are focused on community, that you can get better results just doing it yourself and putting the right content, the right social proof, and certainly the right advertising in the hands of those that you know, that you interact with, that are good friends and want to support you, all the way to people who have never heard of you before, but really want to get behind the cause. So again, one of the biggest sources of momentum with everything we've been able to do is that it's just us pulling it off.
Yeah.
And it's been a really beautiful process.
Yeah. And just probably echoing a little bit of what I said in the last slide here, and the reason for our capital raise is we are looking at expanding into a few different areas. We would like to get HASTA certification for, you know, our premier products, making sure that we're able to give these to the likes of the AFL players, the NRL players, the netballers that are, you know, being tested rigorously by WADA and drug-free sport. That's an area that we would like to start tapping into. And we've been held up just because of, you know, startup woes, making sure cash flow's on point, you know, getting product back on the shelf as quick as possible, you know, kept us from getting HASTA certification earlier. So, you know, we'll be diving into that. We're rapidly expanding our distribution network, and we've got a lot more stores coming on board, especially in the last 6 to 7 weeks. And keeping up to demand there is why we need to keep stock on shelf. So making sure that we have stock on hand to be able to get out to these places that are looking at taking us on, that's been a big reason as to why we're doing this. I guess another huge reason as well is that we've found such a high demand in such a growing sport in the high rock scene that we don't want to miss the boat when it comes to the premier products that people are looking to use in that high rock space, which is carb, fuel, electrolytes, obviously protein, which we've nailed, but making sure that we have the ability to offer the suite of things that people like to use and get them all from one place, which is us. We've been working in this high rock space now for the better part of 18 months, and it's rapidly growing and it's firing like crazy. And we want to ride the wave. And that's a big reason as to why we wanted to, you know, raise some funds to get some new product out there on the shelf and things that people are really hounding us about getting. And we also want to do it well. We don't want to ever do anything that doesn't sit well with us in terms of quality. And we want to make sure it's scientifically backed and researched and we're doing it properly. And to do that, it does take capital. But whilst we're here trying to grow what we've done and put a lot of our efforts into our biggest seller, which is our protein, there are other areas of the market that we know that we should attack. And then on top of that, it's just branding and awareness. So the branding and awareness and marketing comes down to, we actually run the business so lean. We've cut a lot of cost out of the business that a lot of places don't do. We've taken paid ambassadors off the books. It doesn't require that. It's keeping the business lean. It's reducing ad spend, and we're seeing much better return on investment from those types of practices. So I think it's now time for us, as we start to expand into new markets, you know, the US and New Zealand and Southeast Asia, we're going to need to put some allocation towards growing the brand and getting it into more people's faces as we grow and as we move. So this is another area that we're going to be approaching with this capital raise.
Yep. And I'll throw one more thing in there. We've had such success in our B2B distribution for the first 3 months of this year that it's time for us to double down on that direct to consumer pipeline. And I think that really encompasses the website. James and I have built it ourselves and have done a pretty good job to date, but there's so much within conversion metrics and also adding some really neat, cool, user-friendly features to the website that we think a professional would be best poised to come in and complete for us, to really make every single visitor to the website not only somebody who gets a ton of value out of the content that we have to share, but also has a really user-friendly experience for engaging with the products and ultimately securing them, trying them for the first time, or if they're a repeat customer, trying one of our new flavors or products.
Yeah. So at the moment, here's a little bit of a breakdown of some of the use of funds. Obviously we're looking at expanding our product line, and that's to the speaking with the likes of the electrolytes, the carb fuel, a couple of new flavors and SKU sizes in the protein, but also looking at some things that are coming out sooner rather than later, which is some alternative delivery methods for a pre-workout and a sleep formula, which I think will go really hand in hand with speaking to the people that care about gut health. These unique blends are unlike anything that are on the market at the moment. It's a very unique selling point, and they have a lot of science sitting behind them in terms of their efficacy, and they also taste amazing, which is a huge part of what Phyba does so well. And I'm guessing I'm tooting our own horn here, but we do flavors the best out of anyone in the supplement space. And I think that's something that I would put hand on heart and say we would happily go up against anyone in any space in what we do, and we will come out, either neck and neck or in front. So that's where we're going to be putting a little bit of our use of funds towards. Obviously, the marketing and brand awareness, scaling and distribution. We'll be allocating some funds to increasing our stock that we have on hand, making sure that our supply chain is working. We are really at the point where having a really core working CRM is going to be really beneficial for our business, making sure that we have Shopify speaking with our 3PL and our 3PL speaking back to Shopify, and making sure everything in between is working cohesively and things aren't being left by the wayside. Like Zavi said, website upgrades, making sure it's user-friendly, having a professional come in and really revamp that area. And I think for us as well, again, it's all about making sure everything that we do is done to a high degree of standard. When we're not about forcing the growth, we want to see it naturally grow. And I think with a use of capital in the right areas, we're going to grow organically, grow well, and I guess grow together, especially along with the growth of Hyrox alongside.
Beautifully said. That's a great encapsulation. And at the end of the day, it still helps us to remain lean as a business model and not overspend in any department that's not going to give us a return. So all these metrics that you see are pretty accurate reflections of what we feel is the minimum, but the best use of those funds for each category, without dumping money into something that won't issue a return that's going to see the business improve its profitability and scale over time.
Exactly.
Yep.
So here we have, at the moment, we currently serve just over 5,000 customers since inception, and that's not including what we sell through our brick and mortar retail stores, which is up and around the 200 plus mark, 285 brick and mortar stores around Australia, and soon to be hopefully tapping into a greater market. That's essentially why we've started working with and partnering with Nutrition Systems. They have such a good reach here in Australia that we've already seen our distribution of retail essentially 4x since the start of the year, which has really turned the coin for us in terms of our wholesale side of the business. For us, it's always about making sure that what we do is of high quality. And inside that, we have a 39% return customer rate, especially direct to consumer. People try our product, like the product, and they come back to buy more. And once we saw that happening, we thought we have to implement subscription method, which we do now. And our subscription method works really well. It has returning customer rates that keep us ticking over, so we have a better idea of what our monthly returns are going to be, and it gives us better metrics so we can plan ahead. The feed is something that you guys may or not have heard of, but essentially the feed is an online distribution network. They do direct to consumer sales in America. They have a huge customer base of over 1 million customers that shop with them every single year. And we've recently had chats with those guys about working with them as soon as we get our final FDA approval for America importation. So that's going to be a really exciting factor for us as we start to emerge into other pipelines.
Yeah, beautifully said. I think another big part of this is all of the affiliates that we've had jump on board in the last 3 months. To give you guys a sense of it, we first launched an affiliate program right as inception came around, right as we started, and it didn't get a ton of traction. I think at the time we had maybe about 12 consistent folks in the health and wellness space who were referring clients over to us, and we thought, we'll put a hold on that for just a minute. Now, within a few months of this year, we've had over 100 affiliates jump on board who are producing beautiful content for Phyba, who are using the products, referring over customers, and are really kind of our best friends in this process, because of course we believe in paid advertising. We see the benefits of scaling the operation. But as we said, community is a huge aspect of what we want to build. I don't think without community we'd be anywhere at this moment. You can even see it in the background on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, but I think for the most part, when people in business are shooting for, you know, good revenues, especially in their direct consumer base, they're spending a lot on ads. We spend very, very minimal on ad spend to get the results that we do. And, you know, as we grow and expand and we have a larger attention to the brand, you know, ad spend obviously will rise over time and we'll start to get a broader market from it. But at the moment, we've done this with, again, very minimal ad spend, which we're quite proud of.
Yeah, beautiful. Cool. So look, with market position and distribution, we're in a few different categories to date that have been really useful for us. We have our direct to consumer side of the business and our wholesale partnerships. And up until this year, it's been about 50-50 to the number, which is really surprising to us because typically supplement brands see a really high return on direct to consumer sales and are really slow to initiate wholesale partnerships. But within the first few months of launching Phyba, we got into some of the biggest supplement stores here in Australia off the back of James's notoriety in the space of performance and also the product itself. It was really, really well received. Now, when we look at last year, we did about 278,000 in direct consumer sales through our Shopify, and we are in 285 odd retail locations, Nutrition Warehouse, ASN, FBO. For those of you who are familiar with the sports performance space, those are kind of the gold standard of supplement stores. However, our direct to consumer sales are growing quite rapidly this year. And with nutrition systems on board, we've been able to get into supplement stores, both online and brick and mortar, that we tried for a couple of years to get into, but they've distributed beautifully through their reps all throughout Australia. So that wholesale side of the business is absolutely expanding at a really important and significant rate. And so much of this distribution partnership with them has informed our ability to come to Birchal and say, we have a really solid, beautiful idea here that has a lot of financial backing and the potential for a ton of growth in the calendar year 2025.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as we start to really sink our teeth into these other markets, especially in the high rock space, and as we grow and as we continue to compete there, we'll also find ourselves, you know, really tapping into the likes of the influence in that space as well, which will only be a benefit to us as we move forward.
Definitely. And then with the products themselves and how we position ourselves in the market, very, very few companies work with the type of flavoring formulation that we do. We use something called natural aroma oils to flavor the protein and the performance range products. So for layman's terms, to make it really simple, you can think of it as somewhat an essential oil extraction of flavor that's blended back into the protein. So for example, our salted caramel is made with fenugreek. Our strawberry protein is made with raspberry distillation, and that flavoring gives us not only what James said, the best flavor profile, in my humble opinion, in the supplement industry, certainly the plant-based performance space, but it allows us to be truly all natural across the board in every aspect of our formulation. And to date, we haven't found anybody who's mimicking that, who's doing these types of numbers in the business and also doing so with so much affiliate and community groundswell to support.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Rad. Beautiful. Cool.
So the revenue for the business over the last 12 months and growing as we expand, and we've seen steady growth since we just first started, but we're nearly at, you know, 500K in sales. That's split between both. Our market position is very strong. We sit ourselves in that space right in the middle of, you know, sports performance and gut health. We are just as much about increasing performance as we are about maintaining longevity. And this is not something that's acutely going to pick you up like you would see in, you know, particular, you know, pre-workouts and other things that are going to get you through the next hour of training. But these are here to situate yourselves as a really nice insurance policy on an already good diet. Our idea is to supply beautiful food, supplement, whole foods, the best of the world, the best that the world can provide, all into these beautiful tinctures and flavored well, so people will want to consume them. You know, we could make something completely healthy and, you know, well formulated, but if it doesn't taste well, we just know that the consumer won't take it. So we've focused really heavily on the science behind our manufacturing processes with our team there to flavor these particular formulas extremely well. And I think that's where we have a really, you know, competitive advantage, not only for the fact that I guess I compete in the space And I also, I guess embody what we are producing on a daily basis, which is having an excited lifestyle that makes you want to get outside and go for a run. And I found this so much so when I moved from Adelaide to the Gold Coast, is that this environment just brings it out in you. And that's what we want to try and emulate through the movement of Phyba. Is like Phyba makes you want to move. Phyba makes you want to go out and train. If you get up and you feel tired, you can slog down some yeet and you can go and get your session done and have a good time and feel good for the rest of the day. I really do believe that we've only just started. Even, we're coming up to 3 years, 2.5 years now, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface of growth potential. And I think as soon as we really take stronghold here in Australia and become that cemented name for plant-based supplements and sports performance and gut health here within Australia, the expansion is going to be exponential, especially across, the likes of our local communities like New Zealand and Southeast Asia. But I think it's going to be an expansive process and a fun and exciting process when we enter the US market that is, craving quality products like what we do here from Australia.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And being from the States, I know that there is nothing like Phyba over there and a potential market that is huge. So having consulted with Nick Bear, the owner of BPN, who's done tremendous numbers in a sports performance supplement company with similar social proof and founder-led content, we know that we have the capacity to replicate that here in Australia with the numbers and distribution partnerships that we have. And as a result of that, that's how we arrived in such part at the overall valuation that we're offering through Birchal, which is 5 million as a 10x multiplier of last year's revenue.
Great. So at the moment, in terms of our processing and IP, the way that we do our formulas, essentially what we're doing is we're creating hybrid blends. So these hybrid blends are unique formulations that no one else on the market, follows. It's a unique organic pea, watermelon, pumpkin, and sunflower seed on our, premier protein blend. The things that we use and integrate into it that are unique to us, the likes of, gut matrix and our formulation in terms of flavor profiles. These aren't easily replicated. We do these to a degree that keeps them unique to us. And whilst people can see the ingredient, because we don't believe proprietary blends are the way to go when you want full transparency, it's at the end of the day, we wholeheartedly believe that if we withhold information on a proprietary blend, it's withholding information from the consumer who wants to know what they're putting inside themselves. And whilst people can go out and try to replicate, but not every strawberry tastes like strawberry, and not every chocolate tastes like chocolate. Not every blend is milled the way that we blend and mill our protein, so it's silky smooth and almost whey-like to a degree, which is very easily hydrated. What we found that's unique to us is that our manufacturing processes with our contract manufacturers that we work closely with is that we have a unique blend that is unique to us. We mill the protein in a particular way with a particular blend and milled with a particular set of proteins with particular percentages that no one really has access to. And by doing this, it keeps us in a space that is very hard to attain. Otherwise, people would have done it already. And we've put our product up against some of the best in the country as it stands. And every time we've done blind taste testings, we've come out on top. We have trademarked a few things within the business. Other things that we've tried to trademark have been disallowed just because of particular names, etc. Not that they were already trademarked, but they just sit in a weird category. But obviously, Phyba's trademarked, Flora Fuel's trademarked. But the likes of Super Browns and Yeet, they kind of sit in a funky category. But to be honest, I don't see many people trying to replicate those names. They're quite unique to us, but we do have, milling processes and techniques that not a lot of other people have access to and are very hard to replicate in that respect.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, one of the things that I know that I struggled with most working with having been vegan and also working with vegan athletes in the States is this concept that plant protein is quite grainy, gritty, and undigestible. To be perfectly honest, the market is flooded with what we would describe as some inferior products that, while they are proteinous, they do have a high protein content. They're really not palatable or pleasant for the consumer. So what we set out to do was to create the smoothest, most bioavailable, gut-friendly, and delicious protein that we could. And time again, through consumer feedback, through taste testing, through sampling at events, we've found that holds up. What we do in order to ensure that are a few things. The first thing that we do is an ultra fine mill on the plant-based protein constituents in the powder. So there are four. There's pumpkin seed, sunflower seed, watermelon seed, and organic pea protein. Out of those four, with the ultra fine milling process, it gives a really smooth mouthfeel, and it's also easy to absorb because of the hydration in the stomach that you get with an ultra fine milled plant protein molecule. In addition to that, we have active ferments in a formulation that we're calling gut matrix that hits in a way that helps the digestive system absorb all of those plant protein molecules. With plant protein, one of the key sources of challenge in the market is that it doesn't digest well, it doesn't sit well. And as a result of that, there's some science saying that it's just not as bioavailable as comparison to an animal-based protein like whey. And what this gut matrix formulation does is help any user absorb the most of the plant protein that they can with a complete amino acid profile, which is great for recovery, it's great for performance, for sleep, these other factors of hybrid performance that we're most keen on. I've already described a bit of the natural aroma oils, but there are very few companies that use a truly holistic and natural process to extract flavors. In fact, we just did a really great podcast on that this last week that you all are welcome to look at. And we use those natural aroma oils to really make sure that our consumers are getting the most clean and pure possible product at the end of the day that reflects the natural constituents we put into the protein. And finally, as I've already said, with the protein blend, most companies will use pea protein. Sometimes they use hemp seed protein, pumpkin, sunflower individually, but very few put all four together, which allows us to have that really high amino acid profile. And particularly one called leucine that's really great for muscle protein synthesis. Our protein has a high concentration of leucine as a result of this formulation process, which helps us stand out against the competitors in the market.
Exactly. So at the moment, we get our packaging from a range of different suppliers, and this just helps us mitigate any potential loss of supply from anyone. So we have local networks here, whether it be El Bell or EPAC or Ultra Labels. We also have overseas as well, helping us out with particular labels. We do most of our labels for our jars down in Sydney, but the idea for us is we always want to move forward to more of an eco-friendly option. So we've got in the pipeline and in the works that we would like to eventually get our bags into jars that can be reused, and our top-up biodegradable bags can just be used as a top-up for that reusable jar. Things like that. But as it stands at the moment, everything that we currently do is recyclable. It's eco-friendly, it's sustainable, and it's better for the environment, rather than what we would see back in the day, that things that can't be composted or can't be put into the recycling bin. For us, it's always about progressing and moving forward, and it's always about utilizing where we can companies here in Australia to help us create our labels, bags, and everything that we currently do is locally sourced as much as possible. We do a few things overseas, but that just comes down to availability of particular sizes and quantities. But then again, it's all about progressing forward, and I think as we progress and build the business, we'll be looking at ways that, things that we don't know now and we will find out in the future, we'll start approaching those and attacking those. And again, being a plant-based supplement brand that's all about natural and clean products, it's also about moving forward in the right direction and being good for the ecosystem as well. So we use a range of different styles at the moment.
Yeah, beautifully said. If you also go into our Birchal profile, you'll see about 2 weeks ago, I posted a new proof of our bags, which are coming out really soon. James and I are super excited about that. But part of this is presenting a really clean, easy to read bag that highlights the ingredients and the things I just spoke about for the consumer to find it both really engaging to interact with, but very clear in terms of the benefits and the focus of the product, which to date we've done a really good job of, but we're now ready to revamp as we release some of these new protein flavors to make sure that we really pop off of the shelf. Obviously sitting here at LSKD, which is a fantastic company, to just do an excellent job of really creating that brand appeal in all of their marketing and all of the clothing that they produce. And we seek to replicate that in the way that we present our protein bags and performance range products. So that's a huge part of what we're focusing on at the moment.
Exactly. So manufacturing and scalability plus USA, contract manufacturing. For us, everything that we currently do, and this is what Zavi and I were touching on earlier, is we run the business very lean. We outsource our 3PL, we outsource contract manufacturing, and all of the formulas, we actually go and sit with the microbiologists, the formulators, the food technicians to create the products that we're looking for and what we want to put in the products. We see so often, again, a copy and paste type of a situation in a lot of different products. And I think that just comes down to the education side of things. Zavi and I have really spent time looking at what feels good for us, what makes us feel better. What's the science telling us from the industry? What are the people talking about? And, creating formulas that are really going to help us, build a brand that's, sits on top of the rest in terms of formulation processes. So for us, we use a Melbourne-based contract manufacturing facility for the likes of our protein powders, browns, which is essentially an enhanced greens powder. But then we also use a local Gold Coast-based fermentation lab that can do anything from dropper tinctures through to probiotics, prebiotics, matrices of all three combined, pre, pro, and postbiotic material, to the likes of RTDs and prebiotic, gut-friendly bars. So we have a really good pipeline in terms of the contract manufacturing space. And there has been talk and questions that have been brought through to us about would we ever take on contract manufacturing ourselves and basically making our own. At the moment, as it stands, the way that we run this business is keeping it an extremely lean process, and the expenditure to create our own facility and build our own practices and everything that goes into the likes of contract manufacturing at the moment, it just doesn't fit the business model. But that's not to say that it couldn't fit down the line. What we've found is that by doing it the way that we currently do, we handball the professional work to the professionals, people that know how to pick and pack, and the clerical error of less than 1% is what we're looking for. Whereas taking these on board adds more pressure to the business and the company, especially in the growing years. Whereas we can, hire the professionals to do it really well for us. And, these days, it's such a competitive market, the prices, actually don't outweigh. And if we took it on ourselves, would actually be more expensive. So we've gone really deep into how we situate our contract manufacturing 3PL, where we outsource and where we insource. And, for the likes of our, marketing material, we insource and we do it ourselves. And for all the things that we can't do better, we outsource and keep the business lean. If we end up, finding ourselves taking stronghold in the US and having really big uptake, essentially what we would plan on doing is going over to the US and setting up contract manufacturing there as well, finding the best of the best NSA certified facilities to create what we currently do and have it to the identical standard. And that's not hard to do because we do actually have a lot of our raw material coming from all over the world. And the US is actually one of those places that we do get some of our product from as well. So the inroads that we build and the network that we've built will allow us to keep the quality high in what we do in terms of flavor profiles and everything else in between, a milling process and combinations we can do from the US as well.
Beautifully said. Well, look, the US is huge. When I say huge, being an American, there are so many people you can hardly keep up. So the amount of people in the sports performance space that I've had the pleasure to build relationships with, to grow with, to run businesses with, is just innumerable. So getting over to the States, certainly through our distribution with the Feed, which is an online e-commerce sports performance website, as we've already mentioned, would be a huge opportunity for us. And we've already started that process of FDA approval to get over to the States in a regulated fashion that allows us to reach a huge consumer base that's interested in what we would venture to say would be the best plant-based protein that the US could possibly gather or possibly bring on board, in addition to the fact that the US market has certainly a really strong crowd appeal. So there's a lot of strategic distribution through these companies to get it into the right hands of different affiliates and different influencers, if you will, to grow the brand and give us a lot of recurring revenue based on that affiliate structure. So the US expansion really remains the number one focus for us in growing the business, as we have Australia really taking over quite well and in a way that's going to allow us to continue that revenue growth for many years to come.
And I won't say too much on this next part because it's not locked in yet, but we have some really good talks coming up with a couple of local brands that have, networks across the entirety of the country and into the likes of New Zealand, and actually some over in Southeast Asia, Singapore, that have, locations in many different places that are looking at doing some global outreach and distribution as well, which could be a fantastic opportunity for us. But we'll see how those progress. They're only in early stages of chats.
Yep, beautiful. Look, there's a lot of support behind Phyba and a lot of key individuals who have both been influential to my growth and James's growth. Like we said, we're here at LSKD headquarters, and CEO Jason Daniel has been really, really helpful in giving us a lot of information and targeted KPIs to hit in the business in order to grow. We have a fantastic network of affiliates who are both business owners and individuals who support the product, who give us a ton of feedback. We've connected with beautiful individuals through the Birchal process who are quite successful in the health and wellness space. And we have both a blend of those with tremendous financial background and tremendous social proof in running businesses that can give us advice on where to invest our energy and where to not invest our energy. And that's been a huge process of how to keep these businesses lean. Like I said, I grew up in Silicon Valley, and I've seen a lot of companies go very gung-ho from the beginning and have tremendous valuations with a lot of social momentum, but peter out because they didn't make the right moves and implement the right strategies in terms of acquisitions and distribution, and thus a great idea never came to full bloom. So James and I had the pleasure of being able to work with people who are quite keen on helping us get to the point that we want to get to, but in a way that's sustainable and manageable.
Exactly. And again, this is just, I guess, being in the space for such a long time. It's a leg up, and it's a step forward for us, or it's a leap forward for us, and having such great people that are want to help advise and are keen to see you succeed. I think we're quite blessed in the fact that we have a lot of people around us that just want to see us do well, which is always great. And that's always been the case, especially competing in sport, people just getting behind you. And I think that's really the Australian way. People want to get behind what you're doing, and they want to see you succeed, and they love people getting out there and having a crack. And we're having a crack. Like we're having a good hard crack, and we're having a good time doing it. And what I can say about the network that we have, I really truly believe that they see the passion in what we're doing. They know that we're viable. We have a working model. We're selling product. And again, it's just the beginning, and they see it growing, and it's kind of like watching an athlete from their early teens growing up, and you see them start to progress and get picked in the teams, and progress into the next level, state level, national level, international level. It's kind of like watching the business grow in that respect. And we're starting to get to those times where we're starting to get to national level, international level, and it's exciting to see. And I think people also really want to support that, and we're lucky enough to be introduced to some really profound people in that respect.
Yeah, beautifully said. Awesome. So I think James will speak a bit on this last part, but I just want to give my own piece on what Phyba has done and what sets us apart. I think you could look at the two folks here, James and I, and say we're ready to withstand anything. To that point, we've gone through the ringer of business growth and that learning curve in some pretty profound ways, and seen tremendous success. But there have also been moments where we both look at each other and we're like, wow, man, like we're gonna have to do some serious work to improve on this aspect of the business, and we've done it. To me, that speaks to resilience, and it also speaks to the ethos of what the products are all about, which is creating longevity. We both believe that what sets us apart is our ability to withstand the ups and downs of a natural business cycle and coordinate our efforts in the most efficient and succinct way as possible. And that's reflected in the way that the athletes have received us. They want to mimic what James has done in sport and repeat that resilience in their training and their life, in scaling their own businesses, whether they're coaches or personal trainers or dietitians. They see the resilience aspect of what we've both brought to the table, and they want to replicate that. And they feel that these products are the best encapsulation of the cleanest, most natural approach to support that endeavor, and to also get behind the storytelling of the brand. We are so lucky to have James's experience and wisdom and history in sport to inform what we're doing, because as much as having a great, clean product on the market is important, without that social proof and embodiment, when we're filming each other on the treadmill, doing our threshold runs, we're out making social media content about our training, it's really the social proof that matters most in that regard. And thus far, we've done that like no other brand that I've seen in the space.
Yeah, and I echo exactly what Zabi just said there is I truly believe that 2025, 2026 is going to be the years of the founder-driven brand. And we know that I've always been a big believer in learning from other people's mistakes rather than having to make a ton myself. And whilst I still make some mistakes myself, the ones that are right in front of me that I've been told not to do, I take them on board immediately. And so having chats with people that have been there and done this and been through again, the ringer of the ups and downs of business, seeing what works and seeing how other companies have grown, from the likes of BPN and how they grow such a large, almost cult-like following, just based around the love of training, the love of training, the love of testing yourself, the impact you can have on people in terms of spreading, beautiful education around gut health microbiome. I think that's what we do so well. We're not just about putting supplements on the shelf and hoping people like them or chucking an influencer behind the brand just to sell some extra products. We're about telling the story. We're about, inspiring people to do the next training session. We're about educating people on, what sunlight can do for you, what good quality water can do for you, what exercise can do for you, what social connection can do for you. And I really feel like that's the way of the supplement industry these days, is being able to tell the story really well. And I think that's what we do best.
Yeah, beautifully said. And finally, I've said this about 3 times, but I think I'm just proud of us at this point.
Yeah.
It's been lean. It's been us. We've been putting in as much effort as possible, and we intend to keep this structure for as long as we can, because we truly believe that the perspectives and experience that we have to bring to the table are bar none the best that are applicable to the business. And rather than scaling into a massive team right away because we want to grow and expand, we think remaining lean as long as we can is the best way that we can grow the brand and create enough recurring revenue in these different distribution channels to reinvest in the business and to propel the business forward. James and I are not big on, kind of like the fame and fandom of drawing big wages from the business and all that typically goes along with the startup culture as like the allure, the draw, the appeal. We're about keeping it as lean as possible so that we can see this encapsulation of our values and our ethics grow and benefit as many people as possible.
And I think coming up on this next slide here, we've got this is just a quick video on the types of sourcing. I know this is going to be a big question for the community that are looking at getting involved with Phyba. But this is just a video of the types of practices that the companies that are contract manufacturing employ to source good quality products. And this is just a short clip that we'd like to play for you, so you have a bit of an understanding on, where do the raw materials come from and what do they look like. And this is a good encapsulation of that.
Beautiful.
200 million years. That's how long the baobab tree has given sustainable life, first to Earth, then to us. Baobab fiber powder contains both soluble and insoluble fiber, as well as polyphenols. On top of that, it's rich in vitamins and minerals. It's one of the most unique superfoods in the world. That's why they call it the tree of life. The potential of baobab's greatness extends beyond any wellness trend. The fact is, 95% of Americans do not get enough fiber. Because gut health is human health, there's arguably no more urgent need than eating whole fibrous foods like baobab. Baobab fiber may be the greatest raw whole food on earth. We call it fibrous, and fibrous is one of the easiest and smartest ways to consume the fiber your body needs.
The fiber aspect is probably the most vital component of this powder. The reason being is that our modern diet is severely lacking in fiber, and fiber lends itself to a healthy gut, and a healthy gut allows you to absorb all the nutrients that other food brings to you. If your gut is not readily available to absorb things like vitamin C, then it just passes through your system. This is where something like baobab fruit powder that has such a high fiber content can make a dramatic difference to your diet.
In my community, lots of people, they used to eat baobab because they know how important baobab it is. But when I was growing up, our parents used to tell us, you must keep on eating baobab because there is something in baobab which you doesn't know.
So if you look at the journey of the product from fruit to bag, we harvest the fruit. The fruit is then collected and brought to central cracking stations. Over here, they are opened up and the fruit pulp is removed. This is then bagged and sent to the next facility. At this facility, it is poured into a machine that we call the hyena, which separates the seed from the powder. Now we have an unrefined, rough, and a chunky powder form, which is then bagged and sent to the next facility. Once received, we tip this powder into a hopper. It passes via a series of magnets to pull out any metal impurities. It then passes through a sieve and is eventually bagged into 20-kilogram bags, ready to ship. Communities that we work with for the harvesting of this fruit are the custodians of the trees. The harvesting and trading of the baobab fruit has made a significant impact on the women harvesters and their families within these communities. The opportunity to give the local community is a means of income, which otherwise wouldn't exist in these incredibly remote and dry areas.
É que nós se sentimos melhor e se sentimos satisfeitas por causa dessa empresa e na colheita de barbá para aqui nesta empresa, porque está a contribuir em vários pontos do país.
Eu sinto trabalhar nessa empresa para ser ajudado, principalmente nos anos passados, não tínhamos nada. Mas, no momento, muita gente já está a construir casas melhoradas, outras já estão a criar também gados. As crianças também estão a ir na escola bem usado. Nós, com o resto do mundo, com essa árvore, nós também, as mulheres, somos desse fruto e também temos a importância também no nosso meio.
We want to share this organic, wild, harvested, and sustainable product with the world, and we want to do it right.
This is the future of wellness, period. You just don't find raw, whole food fiber in a superfruit everywhere. That's the wonder of baobab.
So I think that's a great encapsulation of one of the constituents that we use in a product called Florafuel, which is a daily gut tonic. And we wanted to highlight this video simply because it brings a lot of education and understanding to the quality of ingredients that we use in our formulations and the equitability and the ecosystem that comes behind the formulation. A lot of supplement companies, for example, focus on vitamin isolates and some other more synthetic components, but as a plant-based performance company, we really focus on bringing things from the earth in their whole food form that we know have research, scientific efficacy, and a great distribution pathway behind them to bring consumers the best of what we feel the earth has to offer in a really sustainable way for both the ecosystem and our consumers.
Exactly. Great. And I think we're going to open it up now for a Q&A. If you guys have some questions, feel free to drop the questions in the question box. And yeah, I think we can get it from there.
Thanks so much, James and Xavier. That was such an incredible presentation. The product is just awesome, and you guys are clearly so passionate. I just don't know why anybody wouldn't be all over fiber performance, whether you're an athlete or not. It sounds like everybody needs it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if you want to just pop some questions in, everybody who's in the meeting would like to just ask a few questions. There's one about tell us a little bit more about your competition. You want to break into the US.
Yep.
That's a big deal for you guys. What are you looking at over there and here? You know, who are you trying to basically compete against?
Yeah, so look, here in Australia, I'll speak to that, and then James can speak a bit to the States, our international diplomacy going here. I think in Australia, there are a few similar supplement companies, such as White Wolf Nutrition, Prana On, that have been in the space for some time. And we've actually had solid relationships with those founders and with those networks. And what we've found in comparison to those businesses is they're kind of towards the tail end of their evolution. They're not seeking to push further into just distribution beyond what they currently have in their pipeline. They're not currently innovating too many products. And while there's still a bit of competition for shelf space, they are not pushing the boundaries of formulation, creating community, and building a movement behind their brand like we are. They've somewhat come and done their thing and are not on their way out, but they're certainly not putting as much energy into expansion and growth as we are with a sustainable business model. So here in Australia, some of those direct competitors have almost given us like a tip of the cap and saying the baton is being passed and it's now time for you guys to take the lead.
Yeah. And for our American market, we have a couple of competitors over there, like the likes of Orgain, but where we see ourselves is probably not so much in that space, but our space sits right beside, and this is not a direct competitor. In some ways it could be, but right beside the likes of BPN that do other whey products and things that we don't do. But in terms of being a sport specific, we're a little bit more biased towards gut health. And again, we're happy to get out there and sweat next to our community and customers. So, the likes of BPN, Orgain, back in the day it was Vega, but we see ourselves in those ballparks. But we also see ourselves kind of situating ourselves, within the realm and the likes of, the Symbioticas and other bits and pieces who are all doing, extremely well. And, they were inspirations to us. When we saw what they were doing, we're just like, this is cool. This is great. How can we do these things better? And all it takes is an idea and an execution plan. And there's probably no better partnership than Xavier and myself in terms of execution. We like to have an idea and make it happen.
So when you expand to America, where will the products be produced? Will they still be produced here locally, or?
So initially, that's how we will start out. We'll start out with, all insurances and everything on terms of, shipment and sea freight have been done and handled. We're just waiting on our final approval for FDA to get it into America. You have to go through quite a rigorous process in heavy metal testing for California's Prop 60, Prop 65, to make sure that you don't have heavy metals in the product over a particular limit, which is very low. We sit under that range quite significantly. So for us, it will be about starting the trickle effect, sending them from Australia to there. And then when it becomes a viable situation where it starts to outweigh what we can keep up with in terms of pace, we're going to start filling in the gaps and looking at locations that can create what we currently do in the exact same way that we currently do it over in America. And luckily enough, our contract manufacturers here have fantastic ties with locations over in America that do, NSA certified, making sure quality products are done. But then we would look at contract manufacturing there as well. That would be the way that we would get it done. And then also sharing the likes of the ingredient list with some of those local raw ingredient suppliers to be able to do our own ferments in the same way that we currently do them.
Good answer. There's a question here. What is the gross net profit margin on a regular protein powder bag?
That's a fantastic question. We have a couple different sizes that we offer: a 450 gram bag, a 900 gram bag, and a 2 kilo bag. But the 900 gram bag is the flagship product in terms of the turnover and quantity. And to give you guys a sense of how those costs work out, we have a landed cost to the warehouse in Melbourne, and then we have an RRP, or recommended retail price, that we sell for. Our recommended retail price is $79.95. That's consistent across the board with all our distribution partners as well. And give or take roughly, I won't give away the exact number, but it's about close to $20 that it costs us to land that product to the warehouse. So you're looking at a margin of about $50 per bag, which is quite scalable and quite honestly beautiful for the business, because supplements have always had a really strong standard in terms of profit margins, but we've met and exceeded those during the course of 2 years quite well. And
this also depends on the type of delivery system as well. And it also depends on quantities. It can be quite a drastic supply chain in terms of, the bags themselves might cost anywhere from like $1.30 down to, say, 70 cents, depending on the quantity that you can, dish up and put forward. And we always have to make sure that we're growing substantially to get into the next realm. But you can also shoot yourself in the foot if you try and expand too quickly and get too many bags of a particular flavor, and then you're sitting on stock for too long. So yeah, it kind of sits within that realm there.
There's another one here. My question is, if everything went to plan for the next 10 years, what is your vision for where the business would be? Long term, do you envisage the market will stay in the more niche vegan athlete space, or do you envisage for a more mass market approach? And if so, how are you thinking about competing in a more competitive US market?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic question. And to be honest, I really feel like the plant-based movement is only exceedingly growing year on year on year. And I believe from memory, we looked at what the projections were for the year 2030, and they're up around the $6.5 billion range, and it growing year on year on year. So for us, over the next 10 years, I foresee global distribution across all of the major continents, making sure we have distribution outlets, handling the likes of the US, handling the likes of South America, handling, Southeast Asia, looking at what we can get done across, Europe as well. It's actually a very big market for us. The likes of Hyrox kind of started itself in Germany and really got kicking in London. And we get asked for product there all the time. And, a big question always comes out of the Netherlands as well. So for us, it's really about looking at that and looking at what we can do in, South Africa and other places around that are really demanding the product. But for us over the next 10 years, it's being the #1 plant-based performance brand that emphasizes gut health to the nth degree. And we want to be known for the supplement company, the natural supplement company that fuels athletes that love to train. That's where we situate ourselves. And in terms of comparison and where, for companies that have kind of been there and have run that race prior to us, the likes of, Bear Performance in America, you're doing some, great numbers in terms of their revenue. They're upwards of, $50 million in terms of yearly revenue. It's taken them quite some time to do it, over 10 years. But for us, it's definitely has to be commercially viable, and it definitely has to be something that grows in terms of revenue for us. But as long as we do the basics really well, I found this with sport, you do the basics really well, you stick to your values, you stick to your ethos, and all of those areas will come to life. It'll happen, and we're not about to let up. We're quite relentless in the chase for greatness here.
Why have you chosen this method of funding, guys, as opposed to private equity, for example?
Sure. Well, I think the community aspect of it is the most important for us. It's fantastic to have funding on board and ensure the process can be equitable in terms of exchange of shares and cash. That's an important part of the finance piece of any business, but we value creating the community in and around all of the individuals who have contributed to the product and offering them something back for all of their hard work and helping us grow, and also connecting to new faces and new people who have bright ideas, who can give us insights we haven't considered yet, who want to see us grow and expand and want to get behind the brand as a means of helping us achieve something that we've been pushing all of our energy into, but at the same time always have reached out to different individuals for help and insight to help grow this brand. And we think that through a crowdfund, we truly can achieve that, bringing so many different faces into the ecosystem and having that constant feedback, transparency, and honesty to help us address what we need to do in order to grow.
And I've just saw one question here just on my side as well from Simon, just about, can we share a story about some vegan athletes that have gone from non-vegan to vegan and performed well? I have a great story of a really good friend of mine, Madeline Sturt. She has competed since she was 19, or actually younger, but she first qualified for the CrossFit Games as a 19-year-old. She transitioned to a completely plant-based diet. And, she qualified for the CrossFit Games from 19, 20, 21, 22. Then took about a 4-year hiatus from qualifying. During that period of time, she went completely plant-based. So she's now come back to the CrossFit Games last year and placed top 10 in the world. So it is a growing movement, but again, this is a mass numbers game. If you look at the likes of places that are putting, a million people into a particular sport, as opposed to a group of people putting 10,000 people into a sport, you're likely going to find some hidden gems in the mix of the million people, more so than the 10,000. And the more people that start to implement a plant-based diet, and it doesn't have to be exclusively plant-based. This is the thing that I would love to, put out there. Phyba is plant-based by nature, but it isn't just for plant-based people. This is for people of all walks of life that, like to take a bit of a plant-based approach to their nutrition and care about their gut health. And that's kind of where we situate ourselves. It's not just for the vegans or the plant-based specific. It's for everybody.
Thanks, James. What's the timeline to get approval for sale in America?
Sorry, say that one more time.
What's the timeline to get approval for sale in America and HESTA approval? Do you have a time?
Yeah, so HESTA approval is actually happening on our next batch of protein. So that'll be actually conducted over the course of the next 8 to 10 weeks. And we'll be starting with 2 of our most popular SKUs, which will be the 900 gram chocolate and vanilla. We'll start there and then we slowly expand out, just because it's a bit of a lengthy process and we can't delay every bit of stock because they have to sit in a quarantine period while they're tested. Then from there, looking at the feed, we're looking at getting over there as soon as we get our final FDA approval, and we foresee that being in Q3, Q4 of this year.
Great questions, everybody. There is a question here. What is the company's exit strategy, and how and when does the company plan to provide returns to investors? So we have a standard sort of response to that, basically, because some people on the webinar, this might be your first investment through an equity crowdfunding platform. So just to highlight about the kind of asset class this is, when you buy shares in a company like Phyba through a platform like Birchal, you're buying fully owned ordinary shares. But the shares are considered illiquid, so they cannot be easily transferred or sold. However, there are numerous possible circumstances that may create an opportunity for shareholders to exit the business. And these include, and not limited to, a trade purchase of the company, a listing on a registered stock exchange such as ASX, and a private equity investment in the company, or a share buyback by the company. So that's just to give people who are not clear on how the CSF regime works. And I think we'll just have one more question. Any plans for expansions into Europe?
Yeah, absolutely. And Europe is actually really big on the cards for us, because we have so much demand there, especially again, like out of the Netherlands, out of Great Britain. Lots of people are wanting our products there, and it definitely is in the pipeline. And we do have connections to get things happening there. It's almost going to be like a simultaneous or a replicable. We're going to try it in the US first and replicate that in Europe. And they're both very different in terms of customs, duties, tariffs. We have to do some more digging, but it looks like, as of the moment, it would have to be at a low scale to begin. Just with import taxes being so dramatic in Europe, it might be a better bet for us to go over there and scout for good, high quality contract manufacturing there to begin, just because getting product into the country is somewhat expensive and it kind of blows things out of the water. And then you're also competing against people who are basically building and creating and manufacturing and blending their products already on home soil. So for us, it's going to have to do some digging. And we have spent a touch of time doing it, but we knew that if we were going to spend time doing it, it would take away from what we're currently doing, which is essentially growing and expanding in our current market and making sure we have a real stronghold here. But Europe is definitely on the cards, and we definitely see ourselves there soon after the US.
Terrific. Great answer. So we might wrap up there. Thank you so much, James and Xavi. That was just a fantastic presentation, and thanks to everybody for joining today. As I mentioned earlier, a recording of this will be sent around to everyone who registered in case anyone's missed out. The Expression of Interest campaign for Phyba is live for another week. So if you haven't already, jump onto the Birchal platform and check out the pitch video and the company profile. Once again, the early access offer campaign will be open on the 1st of April. So make sure you get your expression of interest in to have access to the offer document and all the key terms of the offer before it opens to the public. Thanks again. Happy investing, everyone. And thank you for working with Birchal, guys.
Great.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Bye.